reincarnation is taught in the sutras that are considered teachings of expedient meaning. So, on the absolute level, Buddhists don't believe in reincarnation. And I will bring this up because I may be totally wrong. Because many people have made comment that the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh does not talk about reincarnation. And therefore, many of his followers, and I think most of them are what I called earlier, remember, sort of a materialistic residual, Abrahamic residual students, they really they have now backup from an authentic Zen master. So this is how I tend to hear. I could be wrong, I have to say this. Not as a tulku, but as a Buddhist, I worried when I hear this. Because the whole point of practicing Buddha Dharma is to be free from cyclic existence, samsara, going round and round and round. If there is no reincarnation, there is no round and round. There is this, then that. And this makes sense in a way because many of so-called meditation, mindfulness, and so on and so forth, works so well with resorts. Resorts, 5-star resort, massage, mindfulness, because afterwards, nothing to worry. You become a plant, you become part of the universe. Then, right now, you get a massage, you get a jacuzzi, and a meditation. That's why meditation is becoming popular. This is my fantasy. Again, I have to say this before I forget, because otherwise I'll forget. I will. Again, the moment we mention the words like samsara, because it's a foreign language, then you think in terms of long, infinite, sort of, like, I don't know. And this is where all this misconception happens. In the Prajnaparamita Sutra, Buddha told one bodhisattva that from the time he took bodhisattva vow to the time he was the 10th Bhumi bodhisattva, by the way, and it's like, and he was actually towards the last stage, and that's like 3 countless eons, okay? Be careful with the 3 countless eons when you hear this. Because the bodhisattva, I think, was complaining to Buddha, like, it's just so long and just so, And Buddha said that from the time he took the bodhisattva vow till the last moment of the bodhisattva, 10th Bhumi bodhisattva, it was shorter than a spark from the fire coming out and died. It was even shorter than that. That's what Buddha said. So when we talk about samsara, we are talking about a tripping, basically. Tripping, which you should know, being here. So, the concept of reincarnation should not be, like narrowed down to you die as a human being and born as a butterfly. This very, very mediocre, very small way of understanding reincarnation. But, there are teachings like that taught by the Buddha. Remember why? Half-truth, half-no-truth. Because not everybody can understand. I'm repeating this a little bit, but you may ask, why does Buddha do this? Why does he lie?
那也许你会问说，为什么佛陀要这样做？为什么他要所谓的说谎？
He doesn't want you to suffer. Remember, out of compassion.
因为他不希望你受苦，因为他是基于大悲心而教法。
So he wants to take you from here to there, sort of.
他是把你从这里带到这里。
Okay, going back to Thich Nhat Hanh.
那再回到一行禅师。
Then, with a worry, I have read with the help of a lot of people, I've read some of his comments.
因为
Even I highlighted. I can show you if you want.
因为仁波切
Of course, I'm not comparing myself to, he's a great master, but basically what he is saying is what I'm saying. In the ultimate level, we don't talk about reincarnation. Reincarnation does not exist as a truly existing entity. You cannot cherry pick this now. Okay? Chö thamje milamda bujumata bu nyangani de chö tham chö chang milamda bujumata bu nyangani de bal sabi chö milamda bujumata bu. All phenomena are like a dream and like illusion. Reincarnation, of course. Enlightenment, nirvana, is also like a dream and like an illusion. If there is something mightier than the enlightenment, that is also dream and illusion. This is spoken by the Buddha. But yes, in sutras like Jatakamala Sutra, where Buddha said, once upon a time when I was a monkey, as if there was a soul, mind that reincarnates and previous incarnation. Okay, I have to sort of rephrase this a little bit. These sutras, are they talking about the truth? No. But if you ask me, are they lying? I have to think about this. Because they are expedient meaning teaching. Okay, this is just what makes an expedient meaning teaching qualified as an expedient meaning teaching. This is important to actually sort of make note. Expedient teaching must lead to the ultimate truth, otherwise expedient teaching is not good. If expedient teaching is not leading to the direct meaning, then that teaching is not a path. When Buddha said, all compounded things are impermanent, that's an expedient meaning teaching, that's not absolute teaching. To be very crude, just to enhance, just to highlight, that's a lie. That's not a, maybe I shouldn't say lie, but just so that we can communicate. When he says all compounded things are impermanent, that is a relative teaching, not absolute teaching. I think for the materialist, it is actually the ultimate teaching. What is the problem? Why this is not the ultimate teaching? Because if it is ultimate teaching, Buddha is asserting that there is something that is becoming impermanent. Danger. And Buddha is also, by consequences, he's saying impermanence is permanence. This expedient and direct meaning teaching is, as I said, I have no interest in having a dialogue with the scientists. I'm talking about here, just giving an opinion of how to study Buddhism. You have to, really think in this way in order to study Buddhism. If you don't understand some of these systems, you will not understand Buddha Dharma, even intellectually, very difficult. Sometimes Buddha said, those who see me as a form, those who hear me as a sound, they have a wrong view. This is what Buddha said. Other times he said, Buddha is adorned with the 32 major marks, 80 minor marks. So what is this? And sometimes, Buddha never said that there is a nirvana that requires abandoning of samsara. Non-existence of the samsara itself is the nirvana. This is what Buddha said. But other times Buddha talked about the Sukarvati, the land of Amitabha, the swan, the pond, the flowers. He talks like this. Great teacher. That's why people like me, venerate him, because he talks like this. Anyway, the reason why I'm going on and on about this, I have a purpose, because I want to now address to British Buddhists again. Because in some of these books and articles I have read, one that is quoted quite a lot is, there was a time when Buddha was asked 14 different questions. Buddha didn't answer. Okay, so that has been used by the materialist, Abrahamic residual people as a proof. See, Buddha did not talk about reincarnation, because when Buddha was asked whether the world has beginning or end, Buddha didn't say anything. There's a lot of fault in this, because first of all, if you want to study Buddhism, you should really read at least few different sutras, not just one. Because, remember, because Buddha said a lot of different things. You cannot cherry pick. And then also, the understanding, now this one I cannot blame them, of course, but I think the understanding of this, which the traditional Buddhist students like me, we rely on commentator like Nagarjuna. You know, in the traditional Buddhist story, we hear that after Buddha got enlightened, he said, oh, you know, I found a truth that just cannot be talked, cannot be conceived, you know, cannot be discussed. Therefore, I'm going to keep quiet, right? I'm putting it very loosely. So the story goes like Indra, you know, requested him, and then he taught first teaching Saranath. That's the general story. That, what he said is already the teaching.
因为事实上，他所说的已经是一个开始了。
If you can't hear it, if you can't listen to this, too bad, you are not qualified. But what he said, I have found the truth, brilliant, profound, anyway, there's some character. But, you know, no one would hear this. I'm going to keep quiet. That in itself is the teaching of the most highest level. Likewise, one can interpret Buddha's silence to the 14 questions is the teaching. You know, this question comes from Tirthikas, you know, sort of philosophy group of people who basically is a trick question. They wanted to trick him, whether the world has a beginning or not, right?
问题是说世界有没有开始？
Either way, you know, the one who is asking the question wants to establish that there is a self. The best answer is quiet.
最好的回答就是沉默不语。
Because the same question has been asked in other sutras, and Buddha gave many different meanings, answers, many. So, the fact that Buddha did not answer the 14 different questions is yet again a big support to asserting that reincarnation exists on a relative level. Let me explain this a little bit more.
我们就会解释更多一点。
Again and again, reincarnation, cause and effect, all these teachings of the Buddha, he taught, not because that's how it is in the ultimate truth. Remember, always this. Okay, now this is probably another way, this is another difficulty with studying Buddhism. Because when you study Buddhism, you have to almost study within the framework of relative truth and ultimate truth. This is very, very sort of classic Indian way of talking. Okay, talking about the relative truth and ultimate truth.
所以谈这个世俗跟圣义谛，
Big challenge, this one.
这是一个很大的挑战。
Okay, just give you one example.
给一个例子。
Actually, there's many difficulties.
那事实上这些 困难很多。
Difficult one is this. When we talk about relative truth, okay, this is what you want to talk about, relative truth. Unconsciously, you bring the ultimate analytical method. This is problem number one.
你的分析方式带进来。
On the other hand, when we talk about the ultimate truth, not being able to let go the relative truth, the habit of the relative truth. Problem number two. And always forget, we always forget that relative truth and ultimate truth are both within the relative truth. This is problem number three. The next one is the biggest problem.
下一个问题是最大的问题。
The fourth problem is the biggest problem. Every time we talk about the true truth, we forget that they are in union. It's really difficult because, you know, the dualistic habit which shapes your intellectual mind just will not do this, it won't manage to sort of slice and cut these things. It's difficult. And besides, there are so many valuable things also in our life that we value, like morality. Wow, that's very valuable.
像道德，是很有价值的。
You know, you don't want to bring ultimate truth, analytical mind into this too much. Sorry? Analytical system of ultimate truth, you don't want to bring into morality too much, because then morality, you know, crumbles.
经不起分析。
Shunyata, in its absolute, you know, the full level in America, you know, right now, if you teach, you will be categorized into criminal. In America, ethics, morality are so important. Pluralism, justice, so important. Freedom of speech, so important. Those are valuable, you know, so valuable. You know what? Innocent until proven guilty. Wow, so important, these things. And not only the, you know, general Americans or general mundane people, but also Buddhists. Buddhists also have a lot of valuable things. Discipline. Discipline, very important.
持戒非常重要。
Cause and effect, so important, isn't it? No, that one, you know, you don't want to touch. But as I'm saying, if you use the analytical method to understand the ultimate truth to the cause and effect logic crumbles. And within this section, reincarnation. You talk about reincarnation, you know, like, you know, for the Tibetans especially, reincarnation is, and the Buddhists, you know, like traditional Buddhists, reincarnation is so important. That's why, you know, some people are becoming, you know, making a big hoo-ha about, you know, like reincarnation. So, this is why, to study Buddhism, you know, you have to study the framework, how they study the, you know, the nature of the phenomena, the sort of the Buddhist framework. And one of the most important framework is relative truth and ultimate truth. And I want to talk a little bit about these two truths, especially relative truth.
花点时间。
And I want to use an old text. I will just quote few. And the reason why I want to do this is because some of you may think, oh, you know, some of this sounds very modern. It's actually maybe he made it up. No, I didn't make it up. This is a text, and I had to do this. Instead of, you know, again, if I brought a text from, you know, Nagarjuna or Chandrakirti, of course you would think, oh, this is those classic Buddhist, whatever, you know, philosopher. But I didn't. This is a text discovered as a treasure teaching by a treasure discoverer. So I'm, you know, sort of bringing completely non-academic, non-intellectual person called Trengpo Techen Sherpa, who is like the guru of Jigme Lingpa. I'm going to quote him.
那当然，
In the absolute level, there is no such thing as relative truth and ultimate truth. But since you say you are suffering, and I guess you are suffering,
那
and looks like you want to get out of suffering, and you are asking me how to do that, I have no choice but to tell you, you should understand truth. Even as I say this, I don't believe.
虽然
There
我这
is a
么，
truly existing truth.
那既然呢，你看起来像一个笨蛋呆子，
I realize that I have to sort of talk about relative truth and ultimate truth kind of categorization, because you are a dimwit, and I feel for you. So there's something called a relative truth, which is false, not ultimate, not the real, not absolute, faulty. Zumba, lua, so. Zumba, lie, lua, deceptive. And then there's the ultimate truth, which is, okay, first the relative truth. So, again, to define what is relative truth, and I think this is so really good. Four categories, four elements of definition. What makes a relative truth?
什么叫做世俗谛？
Okay, in hierarchy, the first one being probably the least important, the last one being the most important. First one, consensus,
第一个是
agreement.
共识，
That decides what's relative truth.
这个来决定什么叫做世俗谛。共
Okay,
识。
Gash, before I jump into this, he also divides the relative truth to two, valid and invalid. And we are talking about valid relative truth. Second element is that phenomena, do you know how to say this? Like can perform, can be useful?
Affects karmic consequences. It affects karmic consequences.
It affects consequences. Sort of, it has the, like a coffee machine that it, like the glass. It has a purpose, it serves a purpose, it is usable. That's one. Third one, pay attention, so important. Anything that is within the sphere of a cause, condition, and effect, it's relative truth.
是世俗谛。
This is important, you need to know to study Buddhism.
这是
Materialist, I don't think for them it is the ultimate here.
对。
And the fourth one,
第四个，
this one, why not? I'm talking to Mr. Gombrich. Gombrich, doesn't matter. And he proudly, he was trying, we were arguing, and he was proudly talking about Karl Popper, right? Karl Popper?
他们辩论了很久，那他非常所讲的话，
The theory of falsifiability, right? Falsifiable. And here I have to say this very loudly to the British. Long before Karl Popper, falsifiability is the fourth, the most important element of the relative truth. Right? Anything that you can falsify, basically, by analyzing, by hammer, whatever. You understand? Anything that you can analyze and prove this is not the real, this is not the real McCoy, right? This is not the real thing. That is relative truth. Okay? Going back to reincarnation, fits with this, valid relative truth. Consensus, cause and condition. What was it?
purpose。
Purpose, yes.
第二个是这个有个目的，
Yeah, we will talk about that purpose later. I know you have a little bit of a problem with that one. I will talk about this later after food, I think. Actually, Yes. See, I can say after the food we can talk. Do these people believe in continuity? As a relative truth, I know continuity is falsifiability and falsifiable. Because if our materialist, Abrahamic residual Buddhists are saying that continuity is invalid, you have to be careful, because if this kind of concept comes, you can never ever lock a murderer into a prison. Because at 1 o'clock he commits the murder, 2 o'clock judge is still reading the court case, 3 o'clock, it's a different being. It's a different being. Of course, I'm not saying that just because it is usable, it is ultimate truth. I'm not saying that.
Ultimate.
Just because it is usable, that it is ultimate truth. I'm not saying that. Okay, I think I'm becoming a little bit fanatical here, so I should stop.
仁波切说他有一点变得很极端了，所以也许应该休息一下。
Have a lunch.
我们吃中饭。
1:30, right?
1点半。
And I will try to leave some questions and answer later. I'm sure you are burning to, like.